What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, October 27th, 2025, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 14:28 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from here in the US and from Russia and from the Southern Caribbean, from Venezuela. So if you guys haven't been following me on Twitter, you should probably go and do that because I have been posting a lot of information over the weekend. I was not able to post video updates much over the weekend or go live as I had family obligations. So instead, I was posting updates on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is in the description down below. It's at NYPrepper1. But we had the highest priority nuclear code transmitted yesterday afternoon at around 14:17 Eastern Standard Time here in the United States. And I do have a clip of this highest priority nuclear code pinned to the top of my Twitter page. I'm probably going to also upload a separate video of it to YouTube and to Rumble. I'm going to play a sample of it for you right now. But this highest priority nuclear code was transmitted by the United States, and this is known as a Skyking message. So the only higher priority nuclear code in the United States is known as the Emergency War Order, and this is the literal order to launch from the president when the president is putting in his gold codes from his biscuit. The biscuit is like a little card that he keeps on his person, and on that card are printed the authentication codes for launching the nukes. Okay, that proves that he's the president. He has a little biscuit. It's about the size of a credit card, and he gets a new one every single day. Every morning he gets a new biscuit, and there's a lot of numbers on the biscuit, but only a few of them are the actual authentication codes that he needs to prove that he's the president. Okay, otherwise if he dropped it on the street by accident and somebody picked it up and they said, "Oh crap, I have the nuclear codes," and there's a whole bunch of numbers on that biscuit, so he has to memorize which numbers every single day. They change the numbers, and he has to memorize which numbers are the right numbers for the authentication. So when he calls up the Secretary of Defense to order the nukes to be launched, they have to prove that it's him, okay? But when he's doing that, when he's giving out those gold codes, as they're called, to the SecDef or Secretary of War, that's known as the Emergency War Order. That's the highest level. Just below that, or potentially on the same level, is the Skyking message, which we just heard yesterday afternoon at around 14:17 Eastern Time on the primary U.S. nuclear war frequency. This is extremely rare, guys. The last time anybody's ever heard a Skyking message was, I believe, in 2016, okay? And certainly not in the last couple of years, not even before Russia was starting to invade Ukraine. There were no Skykings. There were no Skykings when Iran and Israel were launching missiles at each other during the Biden administration. There were no Skykings when Trump bombed Iran with the stealth bombers. There were no Skykings during Prigozhin's uprising. All right, so that tells you the severity, the seriousness of one of these messages going out. So if you don't know what a Skyking is, aside from it being the highest priority code, basically what happens is it's a one-way code. All right, so you'll have a radio operator with the U.S. nuclear forces, and he'll start the code by saying Skyking, Skyking. And when he says Skyking, that's why it's called a Skyking message. That's letting everybody else know in the nuclear forces that's listening to the radio on the primary nuclear war frequency that this is the highest priority code, okay? So he starts out by saying Skyking, Skyking, and then he'll read off a number of different codes, a number of letters and numbers, okay, and that's the actual coded message to the nuclear forces, and it's one way, all right? So this would be like the equivalent of, a local police officer standing outside of your house with a bullhorn saying, "This is the sheriff's department, please open the door now." Okay? It's a one-way message, it's an instruction, and when he's shouting at you through that bullhorn, "This is the sheriff's department," everybody's listening, all right, within earshot of that. It's the same thing with the Skyking message, okay? This is very, very serious. Like I said, the last time any amateur radio observer, amateur radio enthusiast has ever heard a Skyking message was in 2016, I believe. Okay, so almost 10 years ago, all right? Now, a lot of people on the internet, specifically on Twitter, have been saying that this is all a part of the Global Thunder 26 nuclear exercise that the U.S. has been doing, but that's actually false, okay? They never do these types of codes. They never send these out during exercises, all right? And there's a reason why. The reason is that if there's a true emergency during the middle of an exercise, it would cause chaos amongst the nuclear forces if they don't know what's real world and what's an exercise, okay? So they don't do exercises on primary nuclear war frequencies. They have secondary frequencies to do that on, okay? And how do I know this? Because my friend, inventor Lee Wheelbarger, who was a senior technologist for the U.S. Army and is heavily connected to the highest levels of the government, including intelligence services and the military, told me that they do not do exercises on primary nuclear war frequencies, okay? And let's say even if they did decide to do an exercise and Trump ordered the nuclear forces to send out Sky Kings because it's been almost 10 years and they want to brush the dust off, that still is an indicator that something is brewing. Even if this was an exercise, the fact that they're actually training with Sky King messages, that's like the police doing a live fire exercise, at the academy right before they graduate. Or, that's like the Osama bin Laden Navy SEALs that, did like practice runs through shoot houses before they actually raided Osama bin Laden's compound. They actually had like shoot houses built that replicated the actual compound of Osama bin Laden, and this way they could actually practice going in there and going through the motions, okay? So this is extremely serious, and if anybody out there is downplaying the seriousness of this, I question their common sense, okay? So if anybody out there is saying, don't worry about it, this is just a normal exercise, nothing ever happens, it's not a big deal, please tune those people out, because they are absolutely idiotic, okay? I don't know what the proper word would be. There's a lot of different words I could use for them. Unfortunately, I don't want to say them on YouTube, but those people are downright dangerous, okay? Because they are misinforming and disinforming, and they could even be agents of the government or someone else trying to prevent people from knowing what's really going on, okay? They want you to focus on the World Series. They want you to focus on football season, all right? They don't want you to know that the U.S. is getting ready for war with Russia, for potentially nuclear war, okay? This is extremely serious news, guys. Like I said, this has not been heard in almost 10 years. So I'm going to play a clip for you, and unfortunately, I could not get the beginning of it. I'm going to see if I can find the beginning where he actually says Sky King, Sky King. I personally heard it. I was lucky enough to be monitoring. I had just turned my computer on, and I turned the radio on, and I was listening, and then that's when I heard Sky King, Sky King. I almost couldn't believe it. Guys, it's like seeing Bigfoot or seeing a UFO. I mean, it's extremely rare to hear a Skyking and to actually be on the computer or on your radio listening while it's transmitting. The odds of that are like extremely rare. I mean, just the fact that I had my computer on, I had literally just turned it on like 5 minutes before the Skyking came on, okay? I mean, this is the equivalent of seeing, like an albino world record whitetail buck, okay? It's extremely rare, and I'm going to play what I could record, because as soon as I heard Skyking, I was like, oh, damn, I got to record this, and I got my screen recorder, and I started recording, but I missed the beginning. I'm going to see if somebody else has the actual Skyking part, but let's take a listen.
That is correct. Amber 7-5, copies character 2, confirm 7 Romeo 2 Sierra Kilo.
So that was another unit confirming the receipt of the Skyking message. This was like Amber 7-5. I'm going to try to find another clip for you, but this is absolutely insane. Okay, very, very rare. And if that's not crazy enough, we currently have US B-1 strategic bombers airborne again off the coast of Venezuela. So here we have two B-1 Lancers that took off from Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota earlier today, and they flew all the way down to the southern Caribbean, and they are now operating somewhere just south of Puerto Rico. They went off the flight tracker, so this is their last known position, just south of Puerto Rico. All right, and then they disappeared from the flight tracker, but they're not too far away from Venezuela. My guess is they're going to probably try to get closer to Venezuela, but the flight tracker is not going to pick that up. They might have turned their tracker off because if you remember last week when Trump and Hegseth had that press conference, a reporter confronted Trump about the B-1s that flew down to Venezuela and asked him if it was true that B-1s flew off the coast of Venezuela according to open source analysts, and Trump denied it. He straight up just lied right to the reporter's face. I mean, we were tracking them. They went all the way down to just like 50 miles or less, even 20 miles off the coast of Venezuela. But this is absolutely huge breaking news. We have these B-1s that just went down to the southern Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela. And speaking of Venezuela, the Venezuelan armed forces have begun large-scale air defense and coastal defense exercises. The exercises began yesterday following information about the deployment of the aircraft carrier strike group USS Gerald Ford. Okay, so the Gerald Ford strike group is now in the Adriatic Sea off the coast of Croatia. That was its last sighting, was off the coast of Croatia, and it's going to be moving down to the southern Caribbean over the next several days. It's probably going to take a week or two for it to get here, okay, because their top speed is like 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, all right, so that's going to take a while, but in the meantime, they're obviously preparing for strikes with these flights all the way down to Venezuela, all right. Now, in addition to the B-1s, we have a U.S. nuclear war command and control plane up in the air over the Pacific Northwest. It's currently flying over Washington. And interestingly, we had 2 P-8 Poseidon sub-hunters off the coast of Cape Cod and Long Island, New York, which is very unusual. So maybe something is off the coast of Long Island and Cape Cod, maybe a Russian sub. And I want to just play some other nuclear codes from yesterday. It wasn't just the Skyking message that we heard. There were also over 20 Sky Master messages, which are basically right below a Sky King message. That's the theory, at least, anyway. So these are also very high priority, the second highest priority, right below a Sky King. Now, Sky Masters are more commonly transmitted than Sky Kings. If Sky King is like seeing a UFO or a Bigfoot, a Sky Master would be like seeing a wolf, or a mountain lion or something like that. Okay, it's rare to see, but they're out there and they're fairly common if you go in the right areas. All right, so let me play a clip for that for you.
Foxtrot, Victor, Yankee, Quebec, Yankee, Alpha, Lima, X-ray.
So that was pretty much it. She was just reading off these numbers and letters really quickly.
Foxtrot, Victor, Yankee, Quebec, Yankee, Alpha, Lima, X-ray.
All right, and then also we had a 227 character nuclear code last night. The standard length is 30 characters, and the longest I've ever heard is 288 characters. This one was 227, which is just totally insane. And they only transmit these super long nuclear codes over 200 characters when something big is about to go down, all right?
Romeo, Quebec, Papa, Sierra, standby, 7. Romeo, Quebec, Papa, Sierra, standby, message of 227 characters followed.
All right, so I'm not going to make you listen to 227 characters because it's going to be like 13 minutes, all right? But there you can hear him saying message of 227 characters. Here we have some more interesting nuclear codes from yesterday. These are shorter codes. When you hear these shorter codes, like, short, like 3 characters, 6 characters, 9 characters, those are usually arming codes. And the longer ones, like the 227 characters or the standard EAMs, emergency action messages of 30 characters or so, those are typically targeting codes. So you have targeting codes and launch codes and arming codes. So these could have been arming codes. Listen.
Yankee, Quebec, Yankee, Oscar, Tango, Romeo, Kilo, Alpha, Bravo, Delta, Tango, Victor, Echo, November, Victor, Echo, November. This is Flyfish out.
All right, so that was just like a short, code, some kind of authentication or arming. And then interestingly, we had a U.S. nuclear war command and control plane looping over Raven Rock Mountain. That's the alternate Pentagon, also known as the alternate military command center. And this is where the Secretary of Defense, possibly the President, and other military VIPs would go during a nuclear war if they can get there, because it's a good distance away. It's in southern Pennsylvania, just a few miles away from Camp David. It's located under a 2,000-foot tall mountain, and it's solid rock, and that's where the Pentagon would command a nuclear war from Raven Rock. Some people believe that it's still not active, or it hasn't been active since public information came out about it, because the Russians would immediately target this bunker during a nuclear war. So some people believe that it's not really in use anymore. But the fact that a nuclear war command and control plane was looping right over it tells me that it's still in use. And this was yesterday during the beginning stages of all of these Skymaster messages and Skyking messages. Like I said, over 21 Skymasters, 1 Skyking, and over 60 nuclear codes yesterday. All right, so the reason why this thing was probably looping over Raven Rock is that it was probably deploying an antenna. They have a trailing wire antenna that they can reel out of different lengths. The longest is like 5 miles. The typical length is 1 mile. If they're flying over land over the continental U.S., it's probably a very short antenna so they don't accidentally hit other planes with it. And it was probably trying to send messages down through the bunker, okay, through 2,000 feet of rock, all right, and it was probably using this VLF antenna to do that during this whole event with all these high priority codes. And late last night or early this morning, we had a presidential doomsday plane leave the D.C. area and go to the Stratcom bunker in Offutt Air Base, Nebraska. Then we also had a nuclear war command and control plane take off from Patuxent River. We also had a VIP plane of the U.S. fly from Stratcom back to D.C., so that's pretty interesting. So one VIP went to Stratcom, another one went back to D.C. Very interesting. And we also had a very rare flight of a high-priority reconnaissance plane over the Black Sea on Saturday night and Sunday. And this plane sends intelligence directly to the president and the top generals. This is known as a combat scent. And this plane in particular can pick up radars and missile sites, all right, and it was flying deep in the Black Sea, close to actually Sochi and Novorossiysk, which is where the new headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Fleet is located. But this is extremely rare. We only have 2 of these planes in the entire Air Force, guys. So for us to send one of these into the eastern Black Sea is extremely rare, right off the coast of Sochi. And again, sends intelligence directly to the president and the top generals. Here's another screenshot. It went all the way from the UK and then down to the Black Sea. We also have some major breaking news coming in from Russia. Russia tested a nuclear-powered cruise missile. They've been working on this thing for the past few years. They had a few setbacks with it. In one famous incident, it blew up and released a bunch of radiation in northern Siberia and killed a bunch of scientists due to all the radiation. But this is a cruise missile with a nuclear engine, all right? And Putin announced a successful test of this thing yesterday. He was wearing military camo BDUs, and he was saying that this thing is basically invincible. And Valery Gerasimov, Putin's top general, said that during the test it flew 14,000 kilometers, which is absolutely insane, but it basically has an unlimited range. It can basically orbit the Earth numerous times. Well, not orbit, but it would fly low to the ground because it's a cruise missile. But it can basically maneuver in any way that it wants and strike from any direction and stay up in the air for an indefinite period of time. So this is very, very concerning for the United States. And I don't know if this is why we had the Skyking message yesterday. It could be related to that. We also had a U.S. Navy sub-hunter flying extremely low and close to Kaliningrad in the Baltic Sea. This is very rare to see. And there was some kind of a drone attack on Moscow last night, which prompted the Russian military to deploy with machine guns outside the Kremlin. There you can see the Kremlin, and these are Russian troops with some kind of fully automatic machine gun, and basically setting up to shoot down any drones that might try to hit the Kremlin. So this is massive news right there. And South Korean troops fired warning shots at 2 North Korean soldiers who briefly crossed the fortified inter-Korean border not long after another North Korean soldier defected to the south in that area, South Korean authorities said. and Ukraine is ready to fight for another 2 or 3 years. This was reported by the Polish Prime Minister, who said that Zelensky told him that. And Saab of Sweden plans to open a Gripen fighter jet factory in Ukraine, according to the Financial Times. The move is part of the Ukrainian-Swedish deal to procure 150 Gripen fighter jets for Ukraine. That's a massive number of fighter jets, guys. That would make Ukraine have one of the strongest air forces of all of Europe. I don't even know if the UK has 150 fighter jets, all right? I wanted to update you guys on Hurricane Melissa. It's currently at 175 miles per hour, which is absolutely insane, and that's as of the latest update from the National Hurricane Center just about an hour ago. And it's staying pretty far south of Jamaica, thank God. But the forecast is for this thing to go over the western side of Jamaica. Initially, they were saying it was going to go over like eastern Jamaica, over Kingston, the capital. Now it looks like it's going to go over the western part of Jamaica. But based on the satellite imagery I'm seeing, it looks like it's still moving to the west. So it may even bypass Jamaica completely. Maybe those are prayers answered. And here we have the latest picture from NOAA buoy out in the southern Caribbean, close to where Melissa is. And you can see the waters there look really rough. And you can see how dark the sky is. It looks like it's almost nighttime over there. But this was actually taken just in the last couple of hours. And it looks like it's in the middle of the night. But that's just because the sky is so dark from this storm, okay? And I wanted to show you guys the latest satellite imagery of Melissa, and you can see the eye there is just extremely well defined, and it's continuing to move west. As you can see here, it's starting to turn to the north a little bit more now in the last hour. It looks like it's going to go straight over Montego Bay and Negril, which are just huge tourist areas, okay? So I do have live cameras from Jamaica on my channel on the live stream on YouTube. So you can tune into my live stream and watch the cameras and see the hurricane coming in real time. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back later on tonight, possibly with a live stream. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this video was sponsored by Just In Case Holsters. Guys, you need to get yourself a high-quality holster for your personal defense weapon. And the company I recommend for high-quality leather holsters is Just In Case Holsters. Now, these holsters are made in the USA by a veteran, and the holster that I really love for carrying a firearm in the woods is the Kodiak chest holster. I have one of these for my .357 Magnum, and the leather is really thick, really heavy duty, really beautiful, holds the firearm nicely, and you can draw the weapon very quickly, which is important in a personal defense situation. Now, he has a whole variety of holsters, not just these open carry chest holsters, but if you want to browse around their website, use the link in the description. It's justincaseholsters.com, and I have a special promo code that's going to give you 10% off of all of their products on their website, and the promo code is NYPrepper. And that's also in the description. So justincaseholsters.com. Use the promo code NYPrepper to get 10% off of any leather products on their website.